a situation of growing panic, with new reports that the Ukrainian armed forces have breached the border in the Belgorod region. Renowned analyst Boris Tusin warns that this advance, following the same pattern observed in the Kursk offensive, could result in a catastrophe of immeasurable proportions for the entire country. Despite repeated statements by Russian authorities that the situation is under control, the reality on the ground is quite different. In Belgorod, 3 villages have been closed, with new waves of evacuations underway, affecting various areas. The massive evacuation of the population is already a strong indicator that tensions are rising and Russian control over the region is weakening. Analyzing the situation, it was pointed out that although the Russian General Staff has not yet officially confirmed the breach, it has also not denied it. It is suggested that even if the Ukrainian forces have managed to breach the Russian lines, this is likely part of a reconnaissance in combat, a military tactic to divert and immobilize enemy reserves. This would undoubtedly prevent these forces from being redirected to the already exhausted defensive line in the Kursk operation. The scenario is even more concerning with the recent statement from the Ukrainian Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief Alexander S. Ekak. In an impactful statement, he claimed that Ukraine has already taken control of 100 villages within Russia and that Ukrainian forces continue to advance, inflicting significant losses on the Russian army, both in personnel and equipment. According to SSK, the area controlled by Ukrainian troops now covers 124 square kilometers of Russian territory, an achievement that, if it continues, could lead to a severe destabilization of Russian military power. SSK also highlighted a critical maneuver by Moscow. Russia has redeployed about 30,000 soldiers to the Kursk region in a desperate attempt to contain the Ukrainian advance. However, this troop movement is weakening Russian positions on other fronts, particularly within Ukrainian territory. Even after the major Russian attack that occurred on Tuesday, the strategy of redistributing military forces could be the beginning of a collapse in Russian defenses, which are already showing signs of stress and wear. This accelerated advance of Ukrainian forces, combined with increasing internal pressure in Russia, creates an atmosphere of panic and uncertainty. What seemed unthinkable at the beginning of the war, Ukrainian troops deeply penetrating Russian territory, is now shaping up as an imminent reality, with devastating consequences for the stability of the Kremlin. The coming hours will be crucial, with the evacuation of villages and the redirection of Russian troops. The risk of an even stronger Ukrainian offensive increases, leaving Russia on the brink of a military catastrophe. The situation is evolving rapidly, and what follows could determine the future of the war. The war in Ukraine has caused upheaval not only on the battlefield, but also in the political and military structures of Russia. With growing pressure on Vladimir Putin's regime, both from military difficulties and international sanctions, signs are emerging that the Kremlin's control may be at risk. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. forces in Europe, brings to light a possibility that, until recently, seemed unlikely: a coup against Putin. This scenario is becoming increasingly real as oligarchs and Russian power centers begin to doubt Putin's ability to lead the war to victory. Hodges emphasizes that within the Russian government itself, there are significant fissures, especially between the General Staff and the FSB, Federal Security Service, key institutions responsible for military strategy and internal security in Russia. The lack of cohesion between these entities creates vulnerabilities that Ukrainian forces are exploiting. These internal divisions, amplified by the pressure of the war, could be the breaking point for Putin's downfall. According to Hodges, these tensions are not just political, but also reflect rivalries between agencies with conflicting interests. If Russian oligarchs, key figures who support Putin's power, come to the conclusion that defeat is inevitable and that the responsibility falls on the president, they may begin to act to remove Putin from power, seeking to preserve their own interests and influence within a post-conflict Russia. This warning from Hodges highlights the degree of fragility that the Russian regime is facing. The war in Ukraine, in addition to its devastating impacts on the population and infrastructure of the country, now threatens to destabilize the very heart of power in Moscow. The conflict in Ukraine also continues to intensify with new critical developments in the east of the country. Russian forces have focused their efforts on strategic areas in the Donetsk region, where the fight for control of crucial territories is intensifying daily. The city of Pokrovsk, known for its mines and geopolitical importance, has become a major target for Moscow, which aims to consolidate its presence in the Donbas region. Today we report the latest advances of Russian troops towards Pokrovsk, a mining city of great relevance to Moscow's interests. The Kremlin sees the capture of Pokrovsk as a decisive springboard for the complete annexation of the Donbas region, a central part of the Russian strategy. Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, highlighted the gravity of the situation, warning that the fighting around Pokrovsk is difficult and that the city may be in imminent danger. With Pokrovsk under severe threat, the Russian advance in the Donetsk region could represent a significant turning point in the conflict. The capture of this strategic city would pave the way for consolidating Russian control over the Donbas, which would be a severe blow to Ukrainian resistance. However, Ukrainian forces continue to fight hard to defend the territory, aware of Pokrovsk's crucial importance in the battle for the east of the country. The situation remains tense and uncertain, and the coming days will be decisive for the future of this region. Meanwhile, the international community is watching closely, knowing that the outcome of this struggle could have profound implications for the conflict as a whole. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Here are 2 important videos for you to watch. Best regards and see you in the next video.